everyone, and welcome to this collective haul for the month of May for my manga purchases. For this video I'm just going to be going through everything that I got throughout the month because I didn't film any clips. This is going to be in no particular order, but as always there'll be timestamps for all of the series, so if I'm talking about a series you don't care about, you can skip on to the next one that you do. And at the end I have some Japanese volumes and art books and various things to go through. Not a lot, but just a little bit at the end, so if you're interested in that, you know, there's that too. Starting with the first one, I am literally just picking these randomly. So we have Toilet Bound Hanako-kun volume 11 and volume 12, which is super pretty. I love the cover of volume 12 so much. And then volume 0. So this is me sort of catching up on releases. I am still missing volume 3, 7 and 10, which I think are the ones that are infamously out of stock. I wanted to catch up with what has come out, and I have actually already picked up volume 13, but that was not in May, so I'm not counting it. Toilet Bound Hanako-kun is a supernatural kind of mystery-esque series. It's very infamous for its art, which I feel like a lot of people recognise it for. But yeah, it's super interesting, especially in the later volumes, and I highly recommend it. But it's basically about investigating the supernatural creatures that are in a certain school. That's at least the premise at the start, and then it centres around Hanako-kun, who is one of these mysteries, the 7th, exactly. And volume 0 is basically the initial, not prologue, but like the pilot run of Toilet Bound Hanako-kun. So there is a 3-chapter pilot, I guess, of Hanako-kun, which it's the same story but a different story, and it's actually like concludes within the 3 chapters. So maybe if you're considering getting into Hanako-kun but you're not sure about it, especially because there's a lot of volumes, maybe get this and you have a complete run of like what it kind of is like, but it's a different story. It's really hard to explain, but same characters, same world, different story. That's how I describe it, but it gives you the general vibe of what it's going to go for. And then also at the end it has the author's Ida Iroh's debut work called My Dear Living Dead. Let me see if I can find it. There you go. My Dear Living Dead, which is just kind of like a one-shot story, and not gonna lie, I absolutely loved it, which says a lot because it's quite messed up. I think it says a lot about me as a person, but I really enjoyed it, and it makes me very excited and also terrified with how Hanako-kun is gonna go. But yes, and of course I will show a couple things from this volume because, as I said, it is a standalone. So yeah, this was the original template for Hanako-kun. Let me also show the artwork on the insides because Yen Press always has these pretty art pages. Let's do 11 first. If there is anything spoilery, I will blur it out. But I think Hanako-kun's pretty safe in regards to that. So yeah, that is Toilet Bound Hanako-kun, and on to the next series. Cool. Next up we have Seraph of the End, volume 3. Ooh, if we can focus, thank you. Volume 3 and volume 5. I didn't get volume 4 because it's very out of stock, and I still want to work on Seraph of the End. I said at the end of last year that I wanted to work on my Seraph of the End collection, and it's halfway into the year and I finally started on that. But yeah, I already had the first 2 volumes from years ago when I bought them, and I stopped at 2 volumes for some reason. I don't know why, which is funny because Shino is actually my favourite character in the story, so I don't know why I stopped there. I actually have read up to quite far in the manga. I think up to at least volume 20 digitally, which, you know, this was years ago, and something happened in one of the chapters, which obviously I'm not going to go into detail about, but it I don't know why, but it just like emotionally wrecked me and I couldn't continue the series, and I don't know why that happened, but I just struggled so much. I tried to read like the next couple chapters and I just couldn't do it for some reason. So I want to get back into it, and hopefully it doesn't emotionally wreck me. So as I'm collecting these, I would like to read it, but obviously I'm missing volume 4, so I'll probably end up binge reading it. I know everything about the story, so I'm aware I already like it. For those who aren't aware, Seraph of the End is a post-apocalyptic series. It starts with a virus basically rapidly killing anyone over the age of 13 across the entire world, and vampires use this opportunity to take all the children as livestock, and it focuses on a orphanage called the Hakia Orphanage who have been taken as livestock, and they are attempting to escape the vampire world, and it doesn't quite go to plan, and the main character, Yuichiro, or Yu, basically swears he's gonna take vengeance on the vampires, you know, that old thing, that old story, and yeah, it's very interesting. There is a bit of a high school arc in the beginning, which can be a little bit slow-paced, but like, once you get past that, it's worth the read, in my opinion. So yes, that is Seraph of the End. And next up I have Noragami volume 2, 3, and 4. This is very similar to me. But yeah, for me, this is very similar because I basically stopped reading Noragami the same time I stopped reading Seraph of the End. So I was quite far into the story when I stopped. Oh, that was a lovely sound. But yeah, once again, so I'm familiar with everything that happens later on, and I just want to catch up on the story, basically. And I'm doing that through collecting the volumes physically. Luckily, Noragami isn't out of stock like Seraph of the End is, so I can actually read it physically to catch up. I haven't yet, though. I will do it eventually. I'll probably do it after I get a couple more volumes. I'm trying to get around 2 volumes a month, just to kind of keep on top of it with releases and things. But Noragami, so this series I really struggle to explain for some reason. I guess just because the concept sounds very different to what actually happens in it, essentially, about Japanese gods. In Japan, they have like thousands of gods for hundreds of different things, and you follow Yato, who is a very small name god who's trying to make a name for himself by doing errands for only 5 yen as like an offering, because otherwise he won't stay alive, because if gods are forgotten about, they get basically like blasted out of existence, you know, because they're not needed. And while doing one of his errands, he crosses a road, and this girl Hiyori basically thinks he's going to get run over and tries to save him, and in doing so her soul kind of gets detached from her body, and from that point it sporadically gets detached from her body, so she wants this to be fixed, and obviously she goes to Yato to try and fix it, and yeah, and then the story goes on from there. I recently rewatched the anime because I was kind of feeling a bit nostalgic for Noragami. It used to be one of my favourite shows and series, and I would say it's still high up there. I definitely need to reread it to like confirm that, but I did still enjoy the anime. But anyway, that is Noragami. I don't know why I said it like that. Noragami. Oh, and this is written, I believe, by a duo. I could be wrong about that, but I think there's one person who does the story and one person who does the art. Okay, next up I have Moriarty the Patriot Volume 2, 3, and 6. These might seem like random volumes. This is a series I've been trying to collect since last year, but the first few volumes were quite out of stock. So I decided, I started seeing in America Volume 1 was popping up again, so in expectation for that, I guess, I started collecting the later volumes, so that once I got Volume 1 I would still be able to read on with, you know, I didn't want a case basically where I bought Volume 1 but then all the later volumes are now out of stock, so I just started buying them in anticipation for getting Volume 1, and actually I did buy Volume 1, so that will be in the next haul. But this is a retelling or reimagining of the character of Moriarty from the Sherlock Holmes novels, and obviously we have Sherlock Holmes who is on the front, and it's basically following his perspective through trying to abolish the hierarchy system that's present in Victorian Britain, which is like late 1800s, or at least that's when this is set. And yeah, and he's trying to abolish the hierarchy system through committing crimes, which like is kind of one of those weird things where you're like, it's very similar to Death Note, where you're seeing it from the villain's perspective, but like what he's trying to do, you can see where it's coming from. But I definitely, with Death Note, I was definitely rooting more for L than Light, but with this one, I'm kind of rooting more for the Moriarty side. But yeah, I have read up to, I think, Volume 4 or 5 already for this series, and I watched the anime for it. But I decided to collect the manga because I was really enjoying it. So yes, that is Moriarty the Patriot. Next up, I have Black Butler, a story set in a very similar time period. Well, the exact same time period, I should say. Black Butler is a interesting series. It's one of my favourites, and I know it has a bit of a reputation behind it, and I mainly blame the anime for that. And also some of the fanbase. I personally don't consider myself part of the fanbase, I just consider myself a fan of the series. For those who aren't aware of what it is about, it's once again set in late 1800s Britain, and it's about a boy called Ciel, who is the Earl of the Phantomheim household, and at his side he has a butler who is actually a demon who is contractually obligated to help him, essentially. And as the Earl of the Phantomheims, he works as the Queen's guard dog and investigates mysteries in the underground of I was about to say underground of Japan, underground of Britain, which is basically anything that they don't want the police looking into or the police can't solve. So it's things, you know, quite obviously murders, but like kidnappings, human trafficking, like all this kind of stuff that the police are either struggling to solve, and they need to go more underground routes, more, you know, immoral routes. So I guess in that way it's kind of similar to Moriarty the Patriot, in that your main characters are committing crimes. Like, you know, sometimes it's hard to justify things that they do. But yes, I got volume 17. I'm just trying to collect the series slowly because it's over 30 volumes now, and I'm just getting them when I can see them for a good price. So I think I'm over halfway to completing the series, which is awesome. I did have the first 8 volumes from years ago, but yeah, I'm working on it slowly but surely. So yes, that is Black Butler. Okay, next up, I have the Apothecary Diaries, which is a series that I feel like got decently popular in the last year. This is a mystery historical series and is actually a seinen. A lot of people don't think it's a seinen, but it is a seinen. And it basically follows our character here, Mellow, who is working in a palace for the royal family, and she kind of gets thrown out of the place. Initially she's like a hand servant, or I can't remember the exact role. And then she ends up being recruited as a poison tester for one of the concubines in the inner palace. And yeah, and you basically follow her as she uses her apothecary knowledge to solve different mysteries / crimes that take place within the inner palace. And it's really interesting, well written. Mao is such a refreshing, not just female lead, but lead in general. She just, like, I can vibe with her, you know? Like, she just can't be bothered with anything unless it involves her interest personally. And I think it's a very intriguing story. So yes, that is the Apothecary Diaries. And once again, from a similar vein, we have The King's Beast. I say similar vein because it's, again, like historical Asia. I can't remember if the Apothecary Diaries is set in like a historical, not historical, like a fantasy China or actual China. I will point that on the screen. But The King's Beast is set in a fantasy world. This is volume 1. I actually already own up to volume 5 of the series, and I was just missing volume 1, so I picked it up when I saw it in stock. This is a series set in the same universe as this author's other work, Dawn of the Arcana, but it's completely unrelated. It just happens to be set in the same universe, and it is about this girl who is of a species called Ajin, and basically her twin brother got taken to use as a bodyguard, or like, yeah, I guess bodyguard is the correct term, to the palace for one of the princes, and he mysteriously died or was killed there. So Rangetsu, that's her name, Rangetsu decides to disguise her identity as a female and join the military to rise up the ranks and become a servant for the same prince that her brother was working for, and basically trying to discover what happened to her brother and get vengeance on or for him. And yeah, it's very intriguing. It definitely has it's quite heavy on the romance side of things, which I don't mind personally, but I feel like a lot of people would mind. But I do wish that they focused a bit more on the mystery side of things sometimes, because I do find that part very interesting as well. But yeah, so that is The King's Beast. I think volume 6 has either released or is about to release. So. Okay, next up we have Beyond the Clouds volume 4. I believe this is actually by a French author. I could be wrong about that, but yes, this was a series that I picked up on a whim last year, and I'm very glad I did. It's a very refreshing series compared to the other things that I own, I guess, or read. Especially in the art style, it's very, I mean, obviously it's very watercolour based from the colouring, but it's just very floaty, I guess. Like, the lines aren't really so straight-laced. I don't know, sharp, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Like, if you compare it to something like Moriarty the Patriot, which has very, like, sharp and distinct lines, this is very floaty and, you know, fun. I don't know. But Beyond the Clouds is basically a story. It's set in a fantasy world, but it's interesting because our main character here, Theo, basically has an interest in, like, fantasy novels within the world. So he's really interested in all of these fantasy things that don't exist in his fantasy world. I don't know if that makes sense. But he's basically given up on adventuring the world because he has personal responsibilities at a shop he works at, until he meets this girl with one wing, and I can't remember her name. I believe her name's Emma? Mia. Mia's her name. But yeah, he meets this girl, Mia, with one wing, and basically something bad happens to her and it forces him to go on an adventure, which one hand, it's like, yay, I can go on an adventure that I've always wanted to go on, but the other hand, Mia's life is kind of in danger, so it's kind of a mixed situation. But yeah, it's just a very whimsical read, I guess. It kind of, I feel like if you like Witch Hat Atelier, maybe give this a shot. It's not the exact kind of thing, but it gives off a very similar feeling. The art isn't as refined as Witch Hat Atelier, but, you know, just maybe give it a shot. I don't know. And yeah, I really like it. It's very refreshing compared to the other stuff that I have. I'm sure I did a terrible job explaining it, but yes. Okay, so the next series I'm going to do is the last, like, fantasy one, and then we're going to move on to, like, slice of life and romance. So I have quite a hefty stack here of this series. Oh, they're all backwards. That works. This is a series called Karneval. So we have, I'm going to move these to the side so I can show these off properly. So we have volume 1. These are quite big volumes. These are omnibuses, which have 2 volumes in each volume. So we have volume 2. I just realised I can also show the inside for some art. Yay! And I'll do this one as well. But yes, Karneval is an interesting read. It's actually a Yousei series. I actually have a little bit of a story time about Karneval. However, I will explain the synopsis first before I get into it in case anyone does not care about it. But Karneval is a series about this boy called Nai, who is searching for someone. However, he doesn't really know anything about the world, and all he has is a bracelet to try and find this person. And along the way, he meets this boy, Gareki, who is a thief, but he basically saves him from a situation, and then he decides to go with Nai because he thinks he can have a benefit out of it from selling something, or I can't remember the exact reasoning. But yeah, he goes with him and tries to help him, and they end up getting involved with this government organisation called Circus, who are responsible for, like, subduing supernatural creatures. They're essentially like a crime force, but specifically for supernatural creatures. And yeah, I think that was a terrible synopsis. But it's been I was going to say it's been a long time, but I actually recently read this volume, which will get to my story time. So this series, I actually originally watched the anime for years ago, like probably 6 or 7 years ago, and I remember absolutely loving it. I can't remember what it was about that series that I loved, but I was like so smitten with it, and I still own the DVD of it, which I don't buy DVDs for series, but I have the DVD for Karneval. And recently I saw a clip from it and I was like, wow, okay, the production quality for the show doesn't really hold up. Clearly I must have really been into the story of the series. I found out recently that the manga ended last year with, I think, a total of 28 volumes, and that means that in English they only have 1 volume left to print because they do 2 volumes in one in this omnibus version. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to give the series a shot, because I never went to the manga for some reason, even though I knew it continued in manga format. But yeah, I decided, you know what, I'm going to give the manga a go. So I bought volume 1 first and read through it to make sure that I still would enjoy the series before committing to the entire series, because obviously it's quite long, and because they're omnibus versions, you know, kind of pricey. But I did still enjoy it, so I got all the ones that I felt comfortable getting, essentially. So I bought volume 2 obviously to continue the series, and then I bought volume 8 and 10 because they were on sale, and I don't want to buy any more than 10 just because I'm not worried about those going out of stock, and then the rest of the volumes are out of stock at the moment, so waiting for reprints. That is Karneval, and I'm excited to experience it again. I haven't decided if I want to binge read it all once the finale comes out, or if I want to read it as I get them. So I haven't read volume 2 yet, so we shall see. We'll decide what I want to do. I might read volume 2 and then decide after reading that one. But yeah, I'm kind of excited. So that was Karneval. Okay, and then the remaining series are all like slice of life or romancy ones, excluding some extra stuff that I have at the end. So starting off, I have volume 3 of I Cannot Reach You. This is There you go. This is a BL series about these two guys who are childhood friends. So this is a BL about these childhood friends who one of them likes the other, and the other one's kind of like, does he like me? I feel like he likes me, but like, what if I'm too full of myself? And you know, I didn't deserve this guy. You know, he's too good for me. He wouldn't like me. And it can be a little bit frustrating to read, but I enjoy stuff like this. I love seeing like childhood friends go through the pining stages. But yeah, I can understand why some people are so frustrated maybe about reading this, but I enjoy it. And I was going to have an issue if a certain thing continues through the next volume after this one, but I actually already own volume 4 and I did read it and it doesn't, so I don't have any problems, honestly. I mean, it's not an amazing like 10 out of 10 series, but I do enjoy it enough to be picking it up, so I think that says a lot. And also the covers are very pretty, and I do like this white border. It's very unique, like I don't see that happen a lot. But yes, so that is volume 3 of I Cannot Reach You. Following the BL trend, we have Sasaki and Miyano volume 5. There is a little nick on the top, which makes me very sad. But yeah, anyone who knows me knows I love this series. I love it a lot. The volumes are quite thin, but I am obligated never to say anything bad about the series, so you didn't hear me say that. But yes, I really, really enjoy the series. It has a very, very simple concept and there's not a lot of drama involved in it, but it's basically about this guy who is a fan of EL, Miyano, and Sasaki, who is his upperclassman and has an interest in Miyano and finds out that he likes BL and basically asks him to lend it to him as a means of communicating and talking with him, and they share, you know, talks about it, and it's just a very cute, fluffy series. And yeah, I mean, it's definitely a big comfort like series for me, so it's not anything super amazing or spectacular, but I also think that's what makes it so comforting. Like, it doesn't try to be anything that it's not. It just, you know, it stays within its realm. So yeah, I am once again a little bit sad that it's nicked at the top. Also, I know some people don't like the yellow in the spine, which I understand it's hard to read, but I also love this shade of yellow, so you know what, I'm not complaining at all. So yes, Sasaki and Miyano, read it, please, thank you. Or watch the anime was good too. And the anime goes past volume 5, it goes up to the middle of volume 6, I believe, so yes. And actually, there is more Sasaki and Miyano stuff later, so next up we have Lovesick Ellie Volume 1. I actually read the series digitally in January, I believe, and then I think 2 or 3 days after I finished it completely, I found out it was getting a print version, and I wanted to wait a bit before picking it up just to make sure I like wasn't on the post-reading high of, you know, reading a series, because sometimes when you're on that kind of reading high, your judgment gets clouded on how much you actually enjoyed the series, because I did binge read it. But I can confirm I do enjoy the series. Like, once again, I don't think it's the most amazing romance story ever, but I like how unique the concept is, I guess, compared to other things. But essentially it is about this girl called, I think her name's Erica? Yeah, Erica, who she's kind of, you know, like a nobody at school, no one really notices her. But in her pastime, she has a Twitter account called Lovesick Ellie, where she tweets on fantasies about having a boyfriend who she uses the like most popular guy, of course, to like model her fantasies around. And this guy finds out, and she also finds out that he's not so princely. But yeah, I don't know, I just find it a very refreshing story. As I said, I've read the entirety of it, and I think even though the concept sounds really weird and creepy, I actually think it's relatively, like, the relationship dynamic is quite healthy compared to other shoujos I read, because normally I have such an issue with just how both the female lead and male lead are in shoujo romances, which is why I never, like, I read quite a bit, but I never pick them up physically, because I always have an issue with something about them. This one is one where I think their flaws are actually their benefits in the story, I guess. I don't know, I think it's a very nice and potentially refreshing story. So yes, that is Lovesick Ellie. And then for the last series, I have Wake Up Sleeping Beauty Volume 2 and Volume 5. This series, I picked up Volume 1 and 6 in the last haul, and now I've picked up Volume 2 and Volume 5. This is another series that I read earlier in the year. I really love these covers, they're so pretty. And I really enjoyed, and this is definitely one of my top reads this year so far, I would say, other than ongoing stuff. I really, really, really love this story. It's so good. It's only 6 volumes. I highly, highly, highly recommend to check it out. The first 1.5 volumes I actually was put off by, but trust me, if you keep going, it's worth it, at least if you enjoy drama, slice of life stuff. Obviously, if you don't like that genre, then, you know, no point picking it up. But it's essentially about this boy called Tetsu, I believe, who is working as a housekeeper at this, like, big mansion, and he ends up running into the daughter of the family of the mansion, and he falls in love with her pretty quickly. And when he confesses to her, she's like, hey, come back later and see if you can still say that. And when he comes back, she doesn't remember him, and basically he discovers that she has something along the lines of a dissociative identity disorder. It's a bit different to that, but that's the best way of explaining it for this synopsis. And I really loved it. While it is a romance series, it talks about lots of relationships in general, like friendship, family, you know, and it was really good. I really, really want people to read it. Volume 4 was hard to find for a while, but it recently started becoming more in stock, or back in stock, so there's nothing stopping you now. Only 6 volumes, give it a shot. That is Wake Up Sleeping Beauty. And that is it for all of the regular volumes that I have. However, as I said, I do have some Japanese volumes and other things. So I will start off with the Japanese volumes. So starting off, we have more Sasaki and Miyano, yeah. So this is the Anthology that got released in, I think it got released end of April. I got this through Buy, and I ordered through Animate, so I actually got a special benefit with it, which I have. Let me get it. Cool. So this is the benefit for Animate. It was just this really pretty picture of Sasaki, and I'm expecting that there's going to be continuing ones for Miyano and Hirono and Kaguya, because they always do that. But yes, this was definitely a good purchase. It was one of those things where I bought it first for the cover, and then I found out about the Animate privilege, and I was like, wow, I'm so glad I bought this. And then after like getting it in person, even though I can't read it because it's in Japanese, I was very, very happy to get it. For those who don't know, an anthology is basically when a bunch of creators come together to create mini stories for a certain series, or at least that's what it is in this case. So there are a bunch of different authors that worked on the series, including the author of I Cannot Reach You, which is interesting considering I had that as well. So we have some artwork at the front. This is done by the original author and then another artist. I'm very happy to have this, and as I said, Sasaki and Miyano is just ultimate comfort for me, so having things about it makes me happy. So that was it for the anthology. Also, the first chapter is literally about them holding a cat, and it's the cutest thing ever. I just wanted to share that info with everyone. You can preview the first chapter online, so if you go to Amazon Japan or Bookwalker, I believe, you can preview it, so maybe check it out if you're interested. But yes, that was the anthology. And then I did pick up one series in Japanese. It is a one-shot volume, and it is this one called Yuki no Yousei, or Snow Fairy. And I don't know if there's anything. Oh, there's nothing under the covers. What about the other side? Oh, there's a cute little thing. This is another BL. And I read this one shot earlier in the year. It was just the coziest thing I ever read, and I really, really enjoyed it. So I decided I wanted to support the creator. It only came out in... Did it come out in March, maybe? So yeah, it only recently came out, but because I loved it so much, I really wanted to support the original creator. So it is essentially about this guy who is a wildlife photographer. I can't remember the name, so don't ask me. But yeah, this guy who's a wildlife photographer, and he goes to Hokkaido because he wants to take a picture of the snow fairy. But there's some issues with his lodging, and he runs into this local resident who basically offers him to stay at his house, because it's so big and he has so much space anyway, and you basically just watch them develop a relationship over the time, and it's very cute. And one thing that I absolutely loved about the series is the art, and particularly the art of the animals as a wildlife photographer. Let me see if I can find some. But yeah, it's just a super cozy, nice read, and yeah, I really hope it gets an English publication, because, and especially in the winter, because it was really good. It was really good. There's nothing else to say. It was good. And if you're wondering, there's nothing past like kissing, so recommend it if you can find it, I guess. But yeah, so that was Snow Fairy, or Yuki no Yousei. And then the last two things I have are art books. I will start with this one, which is the Toilet Bound Hanako-kun second art book. I actually don't own the first. I bought this one because I wanted free shipping on something, and if I had bought the first one, I actually wouldn't have had enough because it's 200 yen cheaper than this one. So I bought this one instead, and I will eventually get the first one. I'm not going to do a full flip through of it, but I will at least show off some pages. I guess a little bit of a spoiler warning because this is later on in the series, but I'll try and blur out anything that is big spoilers if there is anything. But yeah, it's just a very pretty art book. I don't really have much to say. Everyone knows Ida Iro's artwork is so pretty. But yeah, The first art book recently got an English release, so it's probably likely that this one will get an English release at some point. I don't really care about having it in English because it's about the art. You know, there isn't exactly much writing. So yes, that is that art book. And then I do have one more art book, which is the Black Butler art book. Volume 3. There were 3 art books, and a 4th one actually recently got announced after I bought this one, which is funny. But I bought this for, once again, free shipping. So, but I'm happy to have it. I don't plan on getting the first 2 just because the art isn't as refined, I guess, compared to what it is now. But the art on Black Butler in the later volumes is so pretty. So this art book takes place from volumes, I think, 16 to 22. So it's not even the latest stuff, but it really is so pretty. Once again, I'm not going to show everything, but I'll show off some pages. And this one's actually a hardcover book, and it's so high quality. The book is a little pricey, but it's so high quality, it's hard to be mad about it. This is obviously the picture in the beginning, and I will show off one artwork because this was the artwork that convinced me to buy this. It was this artwork here, the one of CL. It's so pretty. It's so pretty. I love this artwork so much. I saw this and I was like, okay, I guess I will get it. And I probably will get the 4th one. I don't know how soon, but eventually. So yeah, that is that art book. But yes, that is it for this collective haul. I hope it was alright. Thank you so much for watching if you did, and yeah, stay happy, stay healthy, stay okay. Bye guys.